Call our meeting to order. One moment here while I get myself organized. All right, so this is the Monday, November 25th, 2019 meeting of the Addison Central School District Board. We'll open with some introductions, but before we do that, I'm just going to change the order up on the agenda a little bit. We have a lot of presentations tonight. And then some board discussion, but we've got some visitors from concerning the Memorial Sports Center, Parks and Recreation. They're down at the end of the agenda. We're going to move them up a little closer to the top. If nobody has any objection to that. Otherwise, let's begin with a round of introductions. And Mary, if you wouldn't mind starting us off.
Mary Gill.
Vina Daymark. Lorraine Morris.
Suzanne Bach. Victoria Jetty.
I'm Peter Conlon.
Peter Burrows, Superintendent.
Amy McGlashan.
Peg Martin.
Betty Kafumbe.
Chip Malcolm.
Thanks. One of the great pleasures of this board is that we get to travel to the different schools and hear different presentations. And we're going to get to that in just a second. But it's also a time for us to hear public comment. If anybody wishes to make a public comment, this is the time at the start of our meeting, which is our usual ritual. It's an opportunity for us to listen and for you folks to speak. And I didn't know if anybody came here with that in mind. So I just wanted to open the floor up to public comment. Yes, and if you wouldn't mind, Amy, state your name and where you're from.
Sure, I'm Amy Mason. I'm from Weybridge. I would like to say thank you to the school board for serving on the school board. It's hard, and it's especially hard when you're doing some of the things that you all are doing. I just thought it would be really nice to offer a little comment about the temperature of the town and how things are feeling. And I'm not trying to speak for everyone. I'm saying how I feel and what I've heard from some of my wonderful neighbors here. So last year we were just starting to get a sense for IB, for being part of a consolidated school district, embracing that. And then April 8th, we went to the session at the high school where we were introduced to the concept of potential different school configurations. That was April 8th. April 25th was the day that Tilly Belanger was killed in the road here. And that makes me emotional, so that's why my voice is shaking. It rocked the town. It rocked that family. And many of us couldn't really think about anything else except how to get our kids through the school year, how to support the family, our friends through the school year. And the school was incredibly strong through that period of time. And then we got ourselves through this transition from one principal to another wonderful principal. And that's been a beautiful transition. A transition it has been. So I just want to say we haven't had the bandwidth. I haven't had the bandwidth to accept the possible consequences of some of the conversations that are happening in our district. And I'm usually someone that's super engaged and super doing my homework. So I don't think I'm the only one in that. And I just want to share that you're in a town where we're bruised and we have a lot in our hearts and on our minds. And we want to become part of this new joined healthy organization that is ACSD, and we're just a little bit behind on part of it. We admire our colleagues, our neighbors, our friends in Ripton who've been a little more proactive in gathering their thoughts and their questions, and we're following in their footsteps. So I just would just invite the board to understand why there's been possibly less engagement from us than there has been on some other issues in the past. And thank you for all of your time and careful attention, and I hope you'll be delighted and amazed by what you hear from the kids.
Thank you, Amy. Yes.
Hi, my name is Sam Prouty. I have two kids here at the school. I live just down the road. One of the things that I appreciated when the district went through the conversation a couple years ago about sort of introducing the idea of moving 6th grade is that there was a great deal of discussion around sort of the pedagogy behind what that would mean and the best practices around what age ranges serve kids best and configurations that serve kids best, and sort of There was a lot of reading done about sort of studies around when middle school should start and all of that. And so even though that was a contentious conversation that this whole community had to have and a tough decision that you all ultimately had to make, I felt like that was grounded in sort of educational best practices, whether or not we all interpreted those articles the same way. And whether it's a perception of mine that is flawed or the reality, I feel as though this conversation about possible school changes and consolidation has been grounded, or at least in the public forum, has really been grounded along the lines of sort of quantifiables, money and square footage. And that's fine and understandable, and I'm not naive enough to think that those things don't matter. But my perception, and I think the perception of others, is that there is not a lot of conversation happening around best practices and pedagogy when it comes to whatever this next big decision might be. And I think I wanted to just register that, a very small number of this board is ultimately tasked with making a recommendation to the rest of you for a vote, and that's my understanding. And that conversation is the facilities committee that is talking to an outside professional facilities consultant. There's a lot of facilities, and there's a lot of, numerical things that are very important, no doubt about it. But I would encourage you all in the strongest terms to also have the pedagogical conversation, and to maybe, if it's not too late, invite in experts around consolidation of schools, or talk to other districts where that has happened. Maybe you're doing that. If you are, it has not leaked its way into the public yet for us to see. So if you are doing that, my apologies if this comes across as an accusal that you're not, but I feel like the public is not seeing that. What we're seeing are dollars and cents and square footage, and our kids' education is about a lot more than that, and we have a lot of thoughtful people, including employees of the school district. I happen to be married to one of those. She has not yet been invited to any conversations. Nobody's asked her thoughts on best practices. And so I feel as though that's low-hanging fruit that is not being picked, or if it is being picked, the public doesn't know about it. So I would love to hear more, whether it's tonight or in the future, about how this group of people is considering sort of above and beyond the dollars and cents and the square footage measurements around how this decision is going to be made. Thanks.
Thanks, Sam. Anybody else? Yes.
Hi, I'm a community member. My name is Fran Putnam. I don't have children in this school. In fact, I never had children in this school, but I'm a volunteer here because I support the school. I'm speaking for Christina Johnson. She had a suggestion last year before she left here. And she wasn't speaking in an official way, but she did say that maybe we should be honoring the diversity that small schools bring to this district. Not every child needs to have a big school, or not every child needs to go to the same kind of school. So I would like to see us build on what we have here at Weybridge. We have extremely close school-community relationships. We have amazing volunteers here. More volunteers than we have children on a regular basis. We have a rural setting, which is beautiful. We have personalized education, and we have multi-age grouping, and all those things we celebrate. Those are not deficits, those are actually advantages. So I would like to see, rather than talking about closing all of these small schools, which is what I keep hearing is a prospect, accept more students from Middlebury, for example, into this school. Fill out the classrooms a little bit, and then accept this as an excellent school for maybe a larger number of students. I would really hate to see the school close.
Peter?
Yes.
Are you accepting questions that will elicit answers or just comments?
Just comments.
Okay, well, here's a comment, and it could be answered at some other point. I would be interested in the impact of the IB program on Weybridge Elementary, how the students have reacted and how the teachers have reacted. What have been the pluses and the minuses, the growing pains? 5 years from now, what might we have learned from this program?
Thank you. George, would you mind just for the record?
George Belrose, Weybridge.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I'm John Pickens. My daughter goes to kindergarten here. I'm from Weybridge. I've been here for about 3 months. So I want to echo some of Sam's remarks a little bit. My initial sort of entry point for this discussion on school consolidation was a facilities meeting down in Salisbury. So that was a time when a representative from Truex Collins, David Epstein, was sharing some information about the numbers and the different schools. You know, in the context of presenting that information, he made a number of remarks, in my opinion, that really highlighted his obvious bias towards a larger two-section classroom model being sort of an idealized version of a school, and he even remarked at a couple instances, small schools, due to their architectural limitations or lack of there. In other words, implying that they lack a sense of identity in place. He also mentioned that keeping the status quo was actually just a matter of putting, you know, kids behind desks, and we needed to think bigger than that. And even at that time, I felt insulted by that, just to share, you know, how that left an impression on me. I had only been here for about 1 month, but I had already seen the principal welcoming my daughter every morning at school, her already knowing some 6th graders, already being seen by a bunch of different people. So for me to hear that from a representative from an architectural firm actually wasn't that surprising, because I kind of felt like that was probably his bias. But the fact that none of you responded to him explicitly and stood up for these schools made me feel very surprised, actually. And just to sort of echo what Sam said, if you want us to think that you're not fully subscribing to that rhetoric, then you need to, you know, let there be some expertise into the conversation that isn't financials and numbers driven. For example, you're paying, according to you, $120 to $195 per hour for Truex Collins. Have you considered paying an obvious advocate for the benefit of small school who can say, with the knowledgeable reasons, why there's such a beauty and importance in protecting a small community where there's an identity of home, a community of adults, and a school all in one place? I think someone could bring a lot of expertise from that side of the picture, but I haven't seen that, and the fact that you're paying someone else who doesn't seem to hold that sensibility just makes it feel like, from my perspective, it's a one-sided conversation. And if that's not possible financially, I totally get it. But if you can imagine a parent, this is the last thing I'll say, if you can imagine a parent at a school that they treasure, it's my heart already after just a few months, how someone speaking about that and at least make the conversation interesting for us who are sitting there in the room hearing that. It was a painful meeting and it's still sticking with me. Now it's been 2 months and I kind of think about it almost every day when I drop my daughter off for school, and it makes me sad.
Thanks, John. Anybody else? Yes.
Ethan Miller, Weybridge, daughter here. To Sam's point, it's got to happen culturally, right? You can talk buildings and policy and budgets, but if you're going to do this, you've got to do it on a cultural level as well, right? So you've got to include people. You've got to make communities feel included. Right? This isn't like a new American problem. This is an old American problem. In some ways, it's the original American problem, right? Of representation. You guys are like the Senate. You're like the cooling saucer, right? We might need a group for the schools to have like a House of Representatives sort of thing, where we feel represented. And if we're going to build something, we need to be working too maybe towards a cohesiveness among our disparate, wonderful elementary schools, right? So that this isn't just being imposed on us or happening to us and we're powerless. We need to be included in the process on a cultural level as well, so that we can build it together, right? Then it can be something special, right? Sue White might be somebody smart to talk to. She's been doing it on a preschool level for decades, doing an incredible job. She's a brilliant educator. Should be a resource to talk to, because she's been bringing all the different towns together on preschool level and building something magic. So it can be done, but we have to be included.
Thank you. Yes.
My name is Ophelia Glenn. I have 2 children here, and my husband teaches at the college. So last year we were on sabbatical,
and we went to Illinois, and we put our children in the public school. In the public school, very similar to the ones you're proposing, with 2 classes per grade, and much bigger than this. And my children did okay, but they could not, my son especially, because he was in kindergarten and first grade and second grade here, he could not wait to come back to Vermont, to go back to his school. And when I was describing our school to our parents in Illinois, they were just dreaming about how wonderful it would be to have a school like that. So for me, that we're trying to replicate something that has so many problems, and closing this wonderful school is very problematic.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm Ben Bach. I have 2 kids here at Weybridge. And I'm just going to send a little hope. And we read what happens at E&D from our neighboring school districts. And it seems like what has transpired this fall in Virgins and also is led a lot of people to divisiveness and anger towards the board, as well as what's going on in Mount Abe. I think there's a lack of transparency up in the Bristol area and some anxiety from residents towards the board. I just hope that ACSD can do things in a very transparent way that is inclusive of the communities. And so I don't want to end up in a situation like what's going on in our neighboring communities.
Thank you. Yes.
Excuse me. It's Brian Mason. I have 2 kids currently here, a daughter who has gone through and is at the middle school now. We all, at the end of the day, want the same thing. We want a good education for our kids. We want tight-knit communities. We want what's best for everyone around us. I just want to sort of follow in the footsteps of other people in what they've said and kind of broaden it out as far as who you're looking to for knowledge and research and information about kind of the path you're charting forward. As people have said, I think that from our side, a lot of it has been dollars and cents, square footage, per pupil costs, class sizes, and I just want to broaden that out to include the communities that we're talking about as well. I think that the discussion of closing schools obviously has a much broader implication for the communities that they're in, for the communities that do have schools shut down, what that does to sort of the fabric and cohesiveness of each of those communities. One of the driving factors obviously is population decline, and if that being such a large problem, I am really worried about the effect of closing schools and how that will affect population decline. Many of the people, like I said, for example, I know ourselves included, who have moved into the community, specifically came into the community because it has a good school and we have young children. And I really worry that if we do start closing these schools, that is going to have a very detrimental and potentially catastrophic effect for some of these communities. Yes, I would just hope that you would include, people with relevant expertise, do some research into, places where this has happened, what effect it really has had on the communities, how they feel about it now, years down the road. I would assume and hope that those are questions that are being asked, and if not, then would be included in the conversation. So, thank you.
Right.
I'll just say one last thing. I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old coming through the system.
Would you mind telling us your name and where you're from?
I'm sorry, Saul, S-A-U-L. I'm from Weybridge. I guess I just wanted to throw my voice out there and just say, echo everybody else's sentiments, and you can probably really feel the trepidation in the room, and people are pretty resolute and they feel pretty strongly, and there's a reason for that. I could go on for a long time, but I'll just leave it at that. Thank you for doing the job. Oh, I'm sorry, one last thing, I'm sorry. I think it would make everyone feel better. This could become, a potentially divisive issue within the community. And if it went slow, if it was transparent, and if it was thorough, I think that would limit that.
Thank you. Yes.
Ruth Bernstein from Shoreham, and I have a 7th grader, 1st grader, and 1-year-old. And I'll try to speak quickly, but I have a lot of experience. I went to Addison County, small Addison County schools. My mom taught at them, I've taught at them, and my kids are at them. So this has kind of been my whole life. I don't feel like we've seen the proof. We started out with this being about cost savings and declining enrollment, which isn't true in a lot of the schools anymore. Shoreham's gone up 40% in the last 6 years. A lot of the schools have stabilized, the smaller schools. So I don't feel like we've seen the proof that new schools and more transportation would save money. I think there's other ways we can think about saving money. There's positions that cost a lot more than classroom teachers, administrative curriculum coordinators that we've added a lot, the trainings and the transportation to those trainings. I'm trying to go quick and hopefully make sense. I'm not a public speaker, but I think we need to be honest that what you're really talking about is changing the whole philosophy of how education has happened here. So closing schools and merging schools is having like an urban model, and that's not, these schools were built as town schools, and that's what we've built our whole system of education on here for a long time. So we need to really think about that. And when you go to these meetings, like John has said, it sometimes feels like you're talking about tearing apart what we've had that really has been so great for many of us. I mean, obviously there's things that can be improved, but I wish the discussion was going more and improving what we have and building on what we have instead of tearing it apart. I think that a really important thing that's being neglected in the conversation is those of us who grew up with or have children with a lot of trauma and really difficult situations, with death and addiction and food insecurity and housing insecurity. And I'm a single parent with 3 kids. It takes a lot of work for me, with my kids 100%, it's a lot of work for me to come to these meetings. And I do it because it matters so much, because I think at the elementary level, the most important thing is the relationships, the relationships, the community, the closeness, somebody knowing my kids, somebody, and I'm speaking for a lot of us, me and my friends and my peers, that, when you have a kid who's experiencing violence in the home, like the school's their safe place, and a person who knows that and knows them and can help connect them to resources, that means everything. And that is what got me through as a kid in Lincoln. And I couldn't afford Lincoln, so I ended up in Shoreham because that's what I was looking for. And I am scared that I also think we need to, like other people have said, think about when we talk about closing schools, we're changing the society. And like the point of education for everyone, it's, to have choices and actualize ourselves and be able to do what we want, but it's also for the good of society. And when we think about closing a school, we're changing that society. We want towns that our kids want to stay in, just like in this, when I've been working on the petitions and talking to strangers and stuff, this has come up, and they've said, like, I grew up in this town, I chose to stay here and raise my kids here, I want this to be a town that my kids want to stay here and raise their kids here. And lastly, there's a lot of us, we're dedicated, we come to these meetings, and I too, I don't like that it becomes adversarial, that it feels like there's like walls and it's hard to get through. I feel like we're these dedicated, passionate people about the school, so I would wish you would engage with us and try and understand us and make use of us, because we care so much.
Thank you, Ruth. All right, well, seeing no other hands, we'll thank you all very much for your attendance and your interest and your staying on things. I will just say, just briefly, that for those of you who aren't aware, our current schedule is to continue to gather information, to continue to have more public engagement on smaller settings, more intimate settings where there can be that back and forth. That sort of a formal board meeting is not designed for that. And So that work is really going to continue throughout the winter and early spring. And just sort of keep your eye out for when it's coming up in your area. Now, we are in Weybridge, and so that does give us the benefit of a presentation from the Weybridge School, and I'm not sure who's in charge of introductions here.
I think I'll hand it off to Nicole.
Great,
Welcome,
thank you.
everybody. Welcome to the Weybridge School. It's so nice to have you all here for a presentation created by 3 of our 6th graders, Dawn, Marilyn, and Ezra, supported by Ellie, who came tonight and is going to share her thoughts also.
And let me in the door, too.
So the 4 of us came together over a month ago and talked about what we would want to share with you. And it's really 100% student-driven, what you're about to see. The format, the content, and the data collection was all thanks to Vaughn, Marilyn, and Ezra. So if nothing else to say, let's begin.
We are going to be asking ourselves 2 questions. What does it mean to be a student at Weybridge School? And what do students and staff say about Weybridge Elementary?
And this is our photo essay about what does it mean to be a Weybridge student by 3 of us. Being a Weybridge student means participating in classroom learning that is focused and engaged. We have 4 classrooms, K1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. They are amazing to be in. If you understand the community well enough, it's like watching a crazy abstract painting being painted backwards, then forwards, then backwards again. You can just feel the creativity going. These are our IB units, who we are, sharing the planet, where we are in place and time, how we organize ourselves, how the world works, and how we express ourselves. These are just some of the things we've worked on over the past 2 years, and it's pretty amazing. And this is what our IB work looks like in action: thinking, wondering, discovering, creating.
So we have PE every Monday and Tuesday, and Ms. Kara makes sure that to bring in new things for us to learn and practice. So these photos are of us learning archery, and this was definitely one of our favorites from the past few months. So we have the pleasure of having Sarah Metcalf every Wednesday, and she with each class she has a music class where she talks about the basics, and then for the 4, 5, and 6 grades we have chorus, and for 5 and 6 we have band, and basically it's like an experience for kids to learn what it means to play or sing in a group. So Elizabeth joins us every Thursday for counseling, and first she goes to every class and talks about social emotional learning, and then if a student wants to meet with her privately, she has that time throughout the day. We really enjoy our time with her, and we wish that we had more. So every Friday we work together in art class, either doing collaborative artwork, or sometimes we go throughout the school and we paint. Like there's a picture of us there at the Peace Garden outside. Miss Sarah Flynn took us outside to paint and customize some of the tiles. And we also have an indoor recess option every Tuesday so that kids can go in and have their more personal art projects.
We have a recess almost every day, twice a day, except for Tuesdays.
giving us a total of 4.5 hours of recess a week. So, and we also built and partially designed this castle. We love to play in nature during recess. Just being outside, we all like to have fun outside. We also have many inside options. Lego Makerspace are probably the two most popular. Makerspace, you create things and Legos as well. So we have a creative bunch. We have magic and open art often as well.
Ellie, is there anything you'd like to add so far?
On the slides at recess, we don't climb up the slides. Most of the time.
At least not when the t-shirts are on.
Thanks for the heads up, Vaughn.
On Friday, as I said, we have Makerspace. And we learn how to use tools correctly and safely. And we create things that make us happy and that we make a plan and we work through that plan.
We also love to read whenever we can and wherever we can. And a lot of our community is based on the media we take in. And I think that we have an amazing library run by two amazing librarians. Really helps us connect better. We also have amazing breakfasts and lunches that are sort of handmade by Barbara and used to be Tom.
Yeah, now Pam.
And by Barbara and Pam, who spend a lot more than just their normal hours keeping that kitchen running. And in some of the pictures, you'll see us with kindergarten buddies, which helps us connect better with the younger grades and just help them lead through, well, we help them get used to our community. This year so far, we have community and parent events every month. This year so far we've had the open house potluck, the barn dance, the 2-3 class play, the Halloween parade, and the Thanksgiving feast.
And what's coming up next? I did not change it.
And
of course I would change it.
and coming up next is Gifts for Giving, in which we make things for other people. Smiles?
So the next question that we asked from students and staff was about what do you say about Waybridge Elementary School? So basically we asked students, what do you like about Waybridge Elementary School first? And so 6th graders told us that they like the small school, the tight-knit community, 2 recesses, unique projects, global awareness, choices in school, a variety of learning, traditions in the community, awesome teachers, relationships in the school, which was referring to the K-6 recess, multicultural studies, and how much the school cares about everyone.
When we asked the 4th and 5th graders, they told us, small school, know everyone, good food, we are valued, everyone kind plus honest, fun field trips, engaging lessons, personalized learning, different options for recess, longer periods of free time, fun traditions, good quality materials, nice classroom, being able to have a connection over time with everyone at this school, our focus on social justice. And just a disclaimer, this was not really groomed, so it still sounds like a college student's notes.
The second and third graders told us
They like the small school, they know everyone. An hour of recess almost every day. Going outside in the rain, kind people, being friendly to people, knowing students of all ages, making a connection to our K-6 recess, choosing the books we read, our community, a library to get books from, and enjoy the books. K-6 recess.
When we asked our famous kindergartners and first graders what they liked about Weybridge Elementary School, they told us recess, building and making, art, Legos, share time, 6th grade buddies, book fair, story time, and the people.
So when we asked staff, what do you like about Weybridge Elementary School, they told us it feels like a family, staff are supportive, the children, and that we work together.
When we ask students and staff, what would you change about the school? Too few adults in the building or classroom. One day of art. We want more personalized projects, more active listening, more meeting in the morning meeting. Eating in the common room sometimes, having a counselor every day, more building and making time, 6th grade leadership.
And then finally, we wanted to let you know about all the things that Weybridge staff are doing to make great things happening. We have engineering projects in the fall and spring. It's a school-wide project, K-6. In the winter, we have an arts and movement project that again is a school-wide project. We're developing Nature's Classroom. We have a bunch of acreage behind the school with a path over a stream for us to go learn in the woods. We're working hard as a staff to focus in on assessment and progress monitoring for literacy and math, figuring out how our kids are doing and what we can do to help them. We're going to start cross-country skiing. We have independent learning projects in the 6th grade.
What about the 5th?
Good question. We have upcoming IB units. Teachers are focusing on EST and UDL, that's educational support teams and universal design for learning. We are working on refining our K-6 literacy programming and practices. And then finally, we're working on collaborative problem solving and restorative practices for students who have lagging skills.
Questions?
Board members, any questions? I'd like to ask, one of your things that you said you'd like to have more of was the ability to have lunch together in the common room. And you said sometimes. Does that mean that sometimes you do now, or you don't now and you would like to have it?
So, basically, usually the only times we have lunch in the common room is when we have, like, as we said, the Thanksgiving feast or things like that. Like, we get together as a community, not just as a school. And so what a lot of the kids were saying that they like having lunch as a whole school more often than just on community events.
Thank you. Well, oh yes, Lorraine, I'm sorry.
I missed when you had the list of things that people wanted more of or wanted to see changed. Were those just, okay, OS students and staff, okay, because I was, I think it was you, Fran, who had mentioned that, or someone mentioned there are like more volunteers than basically have students, and then someone had mentioned that there were too few adults in the building and classroom, so I wasn't sure exactly what kind of adults people were looking for. And also, and then the counselor every day. It sounds like, if I gathered correctly, you have a counselor here once a week, is that correct?
Yeah, every Thursday.
So was it students who were looking for the counselor more often and also looking for more. The
counselor.
The counselor was looking for the counselor more often? Oh, okay.
Not that she wanted it, she just wanted more time to connect.
Okay, and the adults in the classroom, was that students looking for more help in the classroom?
So, a lot of the adults also said that they would have enjoyed the kids like learning more with Elizabeth because, I mean, some people like having a counselor shouldn't be just a one-day thing. Like people should have access. Like people were saying that if we had like people don't only have like you don't only have problems, but you want to talk out with a counselor once a week.
So when you're thinking of more adults, you were thinking primarily of the counselor.
So also teachers were like some mixed grades. We have a lot of trouble with like because some of mixed grades only have one person per classroom at a time. So people are like some of the teachers were saying that they would sometimes need help with like sometimes teaching to all the kids, especially in a mixed grade classroom. So yeah.
And I did have one other question. You mentioned in the makerspace, someone mentioned that you guys make things that make us happy. And I was just wondering if you could give me an idea of maybe what you guys had made that made you happy.
Someone made a puppet where the legs move because they're your fingers. And he also painted his fingers red.
I'm sorry, you made what?
He also painted his fingers red so they look like Santa's actual legs.
Very ingenious.
Yes, Mary.
Talking about the makerspace, who comes in for them? Or is it all
Our
staff?
librarian.
Oh, your librarian.
Our very
And the art teacher.
well, yeah.
And sometimes Mr. Fillion, the kindergarten teacher, does a drive-by.
Okay.
And,
Do you have any crafts people that come in and volunteer
it's
time?
only half an hour.
Oh, it's only half an
It's
hour.
only
recesses.
It's really a choice time because it's during recess.
Yeah.
You're welcome to come anytime.
I'm not a crafts person, but I can see where there would be a lot of
There's no
fun
skill
things.
required.
A half an hour doesn't give you a whole lot of time, right?
That gives you. I can't do that math in my head.
So it looks like a fun thing to do.
Can I just add one thing that was missed here because the students don't know that? Every Monday morning, there's a story hour for preschool children, babies all the way up to kindergarten. And it's for the entire community. They come in here and for an hour and a half, they read, they play, parents interact. So that's been going on for 9 years.
Yes, did you mention that you have recess every day except Tuesday?
Well, we have 2 recesses every day, 30 minutes, except for Tuesday, because we have PE later in the day, and teachers don't have enough time in their schedules to allow 75 minutes of kids playing. Because, yes, on Monday we have it in the morning, because...
Tuesday. You said Monday.
On Monday, we have it in the morning, and on Tuesday, we have it in the afternoon. And it substitutes for a recess. There was many grumblings about that fact.
Can I say something?
Yes, yes.
So I'd like to say to our presenters, excellent job. You think very well and very quickly on your feet to the questions that have been thrown at you, which is a skill that you will need as you move further into your high school education and in college or wherever you want to go. Excellent job, and you've done very well. I'm very impressed with all of your...
Thank you. Well, we'll take care of a couple small pieces of business while you folks are packing up and give the kids a chance to skedaddle if they'd like. Okay, how about a motion to approve the minutes of October 28th?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any changes, any questions? Okay, if not, then, hang on, I lost my stuff here. All those in favor of approving those minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And who's abstaining? Anybody? We have Lorraine and Betty. You are as well, but you're taking the minutes, so you can manage yourself here. All right, great. And how about we turn toward the bills, which we have a month's worth.
There's a lot of bills because we did not have our meeting 2 weeks ago, so bear with me again. First ones are from November 4th, from the general account, read by Victoria and myself. And this is the just regular district general account, $229,179.09. Payroll expenses of $14,818.79 for a total of $243,997.88. There were then 2 food service bills on that same date, read by the same people. One for $30,651.56, and the other one for $23,436.81. Second set of bills is from the 11th of November. General account of $124,199.28, and payroll expenses of $843,348.75, total of $967,548.80. Was read by Victoria and myself. Also, the third set of bills is from the 18th of November, read by myself and Victoria. General account of $211,386.34, payroll expenses of $12,685.92, total of $224,072.26. And the fourth was today, read by Victoria and myself. This is general account, $335,161.13, plus payroll expenses of $893,686.28 for a total of $1,228,847.41. I move that we pay the bills.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any questions, any further discussion? Thank you both very much for slogging through those as you do week after week.
It's great fun.
Yep. All right.
I will say it is very well organized by central office, and so it's, any questions that we have along the way are almost immediately answered, so it's pretty benign.
All right. Great. All those in favor of approving the bills as reported, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Okay, so in sort of juggling our agenda here, I wanted to give 2 presenters tonight the opportunity to scoot ahead. And the first is a discussion about a proposal for arena football at the Memorial Sports Center. So this begs the question, why are we listening to this? The fact is the Memorial Sports Center sits on land that we own, and so therefore certain things require us to either approve or sort of agree not to get in the way of. So tonight we're going to have a presentation about a proposal for an arena football program there. And probably the key thing for us is that part of it would include serving beer at the games. So we're sort of the last check off along the way as they try to get this going. And we'll hear the presentation. Peter's done a little research into sort of our legal agreements between us being the literally landlord and our relationship with the town and the Memorial Sports Center. So, Mike, if you'd introduce yourself and tell us what we're about to learn.
Sure, absolutely. My name is Michael Mazzola. I am a co-owner of the Vermont Brewer Arena football team. I am a 10-year educator as well. It's hard to believe I've been an educator for 10 years. So everything I've heard about between the makerspace generation hits me at my core. So I wish you the best in your town issues here, and I know that, I wish you the best in it. I've been in Addison County as well as an educator at Virgins High School before my current employment at Rice Memorial High School as well, where I've been for 5 years now. So, but this is my new toy, if you will. So today I'm going to explain to you who we are, what our pillars are as an organization, and talk about some of the things about how we will create a family-friendly atmosphere by having the alcohol available at the Memorial Sports Center. This is Mike McAuliffe as well, from the Memorial Sports Center as well, here to answer questions about from that perspective as well. So
I'm president of Friends of Middlebury Hockey. Friends of Middlebury Hockey is the management group that does the fundraising and provides management services to Memorial Sports Center.
So at the end of this, if you have questions, I will be around for the majority of the meeting in the back corner there. You're welcome to come ask me questions. I also have magnets available if you'd like to learn more about us, and you can shoot questions there. We're open for community feedback as one of our pillars. You'll see we want community feedback. We want to be a part of the community, and that means listening to the community as well, which includes the town of Weybridge for ourselves. So who we are. We are a professional arena football team. We are different from the outdoor game that you're currently seeing on the in the National Football League or at the collegiate level at Middlebury College, in that we are smaller. The game is built for an ice rink. It's built to be indoors, and it's played March through June. So this March is when we're hoping to kick this off at the Memorial Sports Center. March 28th, to be specific, is when our current league season will open, and I'll have more to that. Home games will be played hopefully at the Memorial Sports Center at the arena there. I was just over there. If you haven't seen the second floor, it's amazing. Please go do so. It's warm, which is great. I was able to sit up there for a good hour just in this and not freeze, and it's wonderful. I was able to do some work up there. As I said here, our league is soon to be announced. I'm happy to report that we have been accepted into a league. We are awaiting the league to announce us, and then I will actually be able to announce it as well. So I was hoping to be able to do that tonight, but the league is kind of taking their sweet time with it. But it has regional teams all throughout the Northeast and northern areas, and it stretches as far south as Tampa Bay, Florida, and Mississippi. So we will be. They will be traveling here, and hopefully we may not necessarily have to travel down there. Hopefully we'll get them to come up here, which would be great for ourselves. The pillars as an organization that I've built and my business partner have built, who's also our head coach, currently in Puerto Rico undergoing work. We all feel bad for him, I know. I feel terrible about it. But the pillars for ourselves that we built is to be a positive contributing member to the Addison County and to the state of Vermont at large for ourselves. Be able to showcase and promote our players, much like a minor league football team would, much like the Vermont Lake Monsters. They're meant to promote their players up to the next level and give them a chance to play. We'll be doing the same thing. And then finally is to provide for the community, for family-friendly and exciting event to do in March, in June, in April, in May, when there's not much to do as a community and not much to do around there. So. That is some of our pillars there for ourselves. We we want to be essentially, everything here boils down to, we want to be your hometown brew. We want to be your hometown people, and something you can look forward to in the spring, much like in the summertime you can look forward to the Vermont Lake Monsters as well. So our benefit as a community, we are bringing in 26 positive role models into the community. These are gentlemen from around the country that we are recruiting to be here. We are paying to be here. We are asking them to come, and they are taking a chance, dropping their lives, dropping families off to come here and play football. We are recruiting the top tier, highest quality caliber person that we can to come to this community. We are not just picking anybody, we are exclusive, and we are meant to be that way because we realize that as a community face and as an entertainment, we have one chance to do this, and we want to do it right. We want to make sure that we do the things we say, and we want to make sure that we abide by what we're talking about and those pillars that we have there. So we are trying to bring in a top-tier quality person locally and from around the country as well. I want to emphasize the local part for ourselves. We're bringing in fans from all over the country. As I mentioned, the league that we are about to join has teams from all over the northern area of the state, of the United States. You got to come here. And we're gonna have to go there. They'll be staying in hotels. They'll be hanging out here. They'll be doing hanging around in providing an economic boom when there otherwise may not necessarily be there. So that leads to my third point there. We are bringing an economic impact during mud season when in talking with businesses that I have, it is typically a slower time in that area. So we're trying to give a boost to the community of Middlebury and Addison County at large. Again, people have to come here, they have to stay here, they have to dine here. They'll be able to actually see and enjoy Addison County that I know and that I have seen and that you all know working and living here every day. So that is one of our benefits. What we would like to do as a community is we want to create an exciting Vermont-based experience for our home games and for you, our potential fans. Having been in Vermont now since 2009, my wife is born and bred here in Vermont. I am a nomad from South Florida, but I like it up here. So I know the Vermont experience. I know I want to showcase Vermont brands. I want to showcase the local community endeavors, and we've tried to do that in partnering with the Memorial Sports Center, a local nonprofit as well. We're benefiting that community. But we're also working with other local areas. I've hired a choreographer that has graduated Middlebury High School and excited to bring her on board. Our director of in-game entertainment comes from Newport, a local product as well. He's been all over the place. We're going to bring top-tier talent and use local talent to showcase throughout all of these home games for ourselves. We'll also be working with vendors and businesses and food vendors in and around Addison County is my hope. My idea is to use as many Addison County products as I can to showcase the wonderful talents that are going on around here that I know are working for ourselves. So the other thing that we would like to do is create a family-friendly experience and a family-friendly atmosphere for everybody. So that's the next slide. That's where we're going to come into play. So how will we create this safe and family-friendly environment? Well, number one is we'll use companies and distributors that have trained employees. That's where the alcohol piece comes in. We want to make sure that the people that are serving that are well-trained in a DLC Class 1 license, which you have to do to be a server, and that all of the respectable companies that I've talked with, they all have employees that are trained. That is their minimum product, and even higher than that. For those of you who don't know, that's the Department of Liquor Control. They give a training program on how to serve, how to detect people that have overserved, and how to say no to them if they are overserved for it. We're going to provide security for all home games. Currently working on that right now. We'll make sure that people know where they can be and where they have to be. So that's maintaining the comfort level that you want as coming in. We will have a family-friendly section of the bleachers as well. That's approximately 1/3, the first third of the bleachers, which is away from both areas that we will have the alcohol areas. So as you're walking in, if you choose to go into that option, it is at no additional cost. You're welcome to sit in the family-friendly section where there will be no alcohol in that area, nor it will not be served, nor will it be in that particular area for ourselves. We will end all alcohol sales at the third quarter. That gives approximately about an hour for people to enjoy the final quarter of the game, hang around, and then they can make their way home. We will also have buses available as well for people to safely get home. We want to make sure that you come back as fans and be able to have a positive experience. If you are players as well, which I will offer to the board tonight, we'll provide community service and public speaking events and engagements about substance abuse. Before all home games, there will certainly be an announcement about that as there is with any other game. But we will also be happy to come into the schools as well and talk about players and their upbringing and any sort of substance abuse problems. If you see it fit, we are happy to do that and provide that as a free service for ourselves, for the community as well. Again, be in that community. You will see our players around as well, just in general, but that is one way that you'll see us. That is a way that our outdoor game is, the outdoor game is different from us. You will get to know our players. You will get to talk with our players. You'll see our players in and around town. You'll see them at Shaw's shopping, because they have to eat. We'll see them walking around Main Street in Middlebury there. I'm working currently to house them in Cornwall, so they're 10 minutes away. So they'll be working, they'll be living just close by. You'll see them running. A lot of these guys are actually vegan athletes, so you'll see them looking at fresh produce as well. And I feel like that's a great positive model for young kids to be able to see, are these big, huge athletes that are not choosing the hamburger, they're choosing the leafy greens and the soybeans as well. So they see everything. So as students, as former students as well, they see everything, and that's a positive role model. Again, we want to create positive, family-friendly atmosphere for students to be able to see and be a part of. So I'm going to let you speak if you want to.
One note I thought you might want to include is the number of home games you anticipate.
Sure.
And when we're talking about this, practically speaking, how many nights a year we're really talking about.
Sure. So number of home games can be as minimal as 5, but per this league can go up to as many as 7 home games. So currently we're trying to schedule 7 home games within that time period of March through June. It's a 10-game season as far as I understand it. There will be 2 bye weeks as well, but our players will be here from March all the way through the middle part of June for ourselves.
And the games are still looking like Saturday evenings?
Yep, so we can schedule the games whenever we like, and ideally 7 o'clock on a Saturday night is ideal for us. The other dates being potentially Friday at 7 o'clock, maybe even Sunday afternoons, but ideally we want to measure up to 7 o'clock on a Saturday night.
Which I asked Michael to bring up because with Memorial Sports Center sitting partially on school grounds, that game time of Saturday evenings at 7 o'clock start presents minimal overlap with any other use of the areas around Memorial Sports Center.
Practice times?
Sure. Open it up to questions. Before I answer your question, I'd like to say, first of all, thank you to the people that invited me, to Mr. Conlon and Dr. Burrows and to Mike McAuliffe for bringing me in. I appreciate it. We'll open it up to other questions. Let's start with that one. Practice times can be any time, but one of the things that the Memorial Sports Center has offered is for us to be able to practice in the same facility during the daytime. So our guys will be living here, which will allow us to be able to practice morning or afternoon. But those are open practices as far as we're concerned. If you're around and you want to come watch us practice, you're welcome to come watch us practice. Ideally, as it warms up, the other thing we were thinking about and something else to bring up to the board would be potentially to use that space, to use the field adjacent at Mary Hogan Elementary School if it's viable, if it fits. Again, being new people in town, we got to work around what you guys will allow us and what's currently going on. We certainly don't want to disrupt anything that's currently going on with that. But one thing we can do is practice in the morning or practice in the afternoon to allow the spring sports season to go on as needed, and they are welcome to use our turf and go through there so that Sean and his group can still go through his spring practices that start off in the beginning there. We can practice simply in the morning and then have our workouts and sessions and community events midday when the high school and everybody else begins to start using it.
So, Mike McAuliffe, well, I guess 3 questions. One, we have typically had the ability to use the sports center during mud season for sports teams and how that would change. Graduation's a big one, number 2. And number 3, how has your organization address the alcohol use question because it's not something that's ever really come up for you as well.
So in order, Memorial Sports Center is going into this conversation with the Brew with an understanding up front that we can't inconvenience any of our pre-existing relationships. And the Brew's been very open to that. So we don't currently see any impact on mud season activities. In fact, we see an enhancement for those because to this point, all of the mud season activities and the things that we do with Parks and Rec Department to bring in Camp Cucamonga and other youth activities all take place on the concrete slab that's left behind when we take the ice out. In our conversations with the Brew, one of the benefits of having them at Memorial Sports Center is that they can come in with their turf surface immediately after we take out the ice, put it down once and leave it until it's time for us to put the ice back in the fall. And so all of those activities where we are currently seeing kids running around in concrete, those kids will now have turf to run around on. And it gives us better peace of mind in providing a safe facility for the children. And it gives a great opportunity for the Brew to have outreach into the community and have those kids running around on Brew branded turf. For your question about the alcohol sales.
Well, let me just ask, graduation.
Oh, sorry.
And I guess I'm thinking of small wooden chairs on soft turf.
Yes. From our perspective and from the Brew's perspective to this point, we've already talked with them about having to schedule around the graduation events. That has not been an issue. And I know that's probably something you'll be talking with this league that you're signing up for to confirm that it won't be an issue.
May I add to that? So one of the things about that we're currently going through is schedule right now, so we can plan to be either away or have a bye week where we're out of the arena on that date. And I did circle as one of the things and sent it on to Coach Flynn, that graduation date we need to not be in the space. Again, we're new guys in town. We're willing to work with any community events that are going on or anybody that's looking to use the space. As well, if we can work with you, absolutely, we'll help in any way we can.
And then on the alcohol sales question, there was one prior event where Memorial Sports Center served as a rain day location. And as part of that, there was a question that went into the town authorizing sale of wine in the facility, and that was approved at that time. That's the only other time we've gone this far down the road in looking at having any type of beer, wine, alcohol sales at Memorial. In this situation, and in most of the situations where Friends of Middlebury Hockey works with someone who wants to use Memorial Sports Center, we're the management organization and we rent time out at the facility for third parties to come in. And then it's the responsibility of that third party to provide security and oversight to the events that are going on. With the Brew, we'll have a member of the rink management staff present during all of the events. But we're working with the Brew to make sure that they have the right people involved, security lined up, and have a plan for how to deal with these in a way that meets the needs of our community.
I just have a question in terms of our liability. God forbid the worst thing happen. You know, somebody goes, hits somebody drunk and they die. What's our liability, or do we need to increase our coverage or whatever and as a result?
We have a requirement for the town to carry insurance against
anything like that.
You know, anything like that happening. So we did review that and felt that we were in good standing with our current lease. So this is kind of a pass-through to the town and then to the sports center. So it's kind of like a two, we're twice removed in some ways here.
So just to get the structure here, so the town owns the arena.
The town owns the building.
The building.
Friends of Middlebury Hockey provides management services for the building.
Yeah.
And we do all of the fundraising to keep it running.
Which this helps.
Yes, towards that end exactly. Memorial Sports Center was purpose-built to be a year-round multi-purpose facility. It's never been intended to just be a hockey rink. And so over the past few years, while I've been involved with Friends of Middlebury Hockey, I've been looking for opportunities to do more with the building than just host hockey. And so when Mike approached us, this seemed like a good opportunity to allow the building to serve the community in a more dynamic way that would let us put people in the building and generate some revenue for the building during a time of year when normally we'd have Camp Cucamonga in there during the days. We'd have mud season baseball in there a couple times a week at a, not even keep the lights on rate to try to work with the programs. But to do more to bring revenue into the town and bring revenue into the facility. And then with our having just finished the second floor, Friends of Middlebury Hockey will have to take on additional debt to pay the note for that work. And we're doing everything we can to complete that and take on that additional debt without having to raise any of the costs that we charge to Middlebury High School for the high school hockey program, or to Maha for the youth hockey program, or to the town for any of the use that Parks and Rec is doing. So we have to find alternate revenue streams, and this has been the most viable and potentially lucrative one that's come our way. And then to build on sentiment that we've already heard a little bit tonight, our population base is aging. We have fewer people showing up out of the blue wanting to play hockey. And if we continue to try to run Memorial Sports Center with so heavy an emphasis on the hockey program, before too much longer, we will start to see viability problems. We're not there yet, but with the way the numbers are trending nationwide for hockey, but specifically here in Vermont, eventually we're going to run into problems if we don't diversify where we're getting our revenue.
To add, if I may, our plan here that you've seen tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is hopefully a sustainable one. We don't intend on going anywhere anytime in the near future. Again, we want to be here, and we don't just want to be here for a year, we want to be here for multiple years. I don't like change all that much. I like knowing, and I like stability. I like knowing that we're going to be here, this team's going to be here. There was a reason why I brought this team here to Addison County, is I feel like it can work very handedly here, not just in 1 year, not just in 5 years, but 10, hopefully 20 down the road, where I can pass this off to somebody who wants to keep it here just as much as I want to keep it here. So hopefully we can be a viable option for the Memorial Sports Center in the years to come as well.
Yes, Mary.
I've never heard of this whole thing before, so this is brand news to me.
Sure.
What is your business model? I'm hearing football and I'm hearing brew.
Yep.
So you're playing football and you're making brew.
We are not making beer. No.
Your name is brew. Oh,
It's the name of it. I wanted to give you some backstory on the name.
Yeah.
I wanted a name that was truly incumbents of Vermont, and I happen to, and also Middlebury, that has breweries and distilleries and other things that includes, a brew is welcoming to me. It could be more than just alcohol, it could be coffee as well, it could be tea, but it's a welcoming term to me, and it's unique to Vermont, more so than some other names I thought about in the past. So I decided to pick it, one, because of its singularity. I like singularity, and it's not an animal name for it, but I like the name brew because of all of that, and I felt like it would set us out into the market, and it highlights something that is statewide, I feel, as well. So our business plan is actually a professional arena football. We're intended to be that. We're intended to give athletes an opportunity to be professional athletes from many different areas. They could have gone to Division III Middlebury College and not been seen, which is what a lot of players need. They need to be seen playing, which is in the term of film. Film is their commodity to them, and the more they get, the more they can pass along. Also, our coaching staff is a championship coaching staff that has connections everywhere for these gentlemen to be able to get to. So we have connections and we network and we show, we tell other coaches about our players and hopefully be able to be seen and move on into the ranks as well. So where do they go from us? Anywhere. They can go as high as the NFL, the National Football League. They can go as high as another tier of arena football, the second tier or first tier, because now we're tier 2. They can go into the Canadian Football League because that's right up the road from us as well. So there's multiple avenues for them to be able to go through. But no, we're not brewing our own beer.
But all I could hear in this discussion was football and the alcohol sales. So
Yes.
I was confused by like, what's the
Yes.
priority here? Okay.
My apologies. The alcohol sales is a revenue stream, one of the revenue streams for us
Obvious.
that we see as coming in. It'll help keep this team viable and sustainable here is my hope. So we do have a couple of different other revenue streams, sponsorships, ticket sales, merchandise sales, but one of the other pieces is the alcohol piece, and that was the thing that we're working on tonight for it. Being the people that have to manage that, it ultimately runs through me and my business partner, so that's the reason why we're here tonight talking about it.
And knowing that's a particularly sensitive topic, we wanted to make sure before Michael goes to the select board to take the next steps forward in this process, we made every effort to give this body the opportunity to ask any questions or make any suggestions that they might have.
So I tend to be who's going to do what kind of person, and so arena football, I assume, needs the glass panels up?
No.
Okay, they don't?
Nope.
All right, that was my
In fact,
concern.
we welcome them down because it helps us with fan engagement as well. Our players
Okay.
wanted, when they score a touchdown, they're actually looking for the fans to be able to high five and shake
Great.
hands with. They enjoy that, so when they actually go into the stands and dance a little bit, it's encouraged that they do something.
I know it's a big process, and I just want to make sure they would be down for graduation.
Yes,
That's what it
they'll
boils
be down
to.
for graduation, we'll lead them down.
Yeah.
And in talking with Michael, setting up for graduation will actually take a lot more labor than setting up for arena football.
Peg, go ahead.
Matter of curiosity.
Sure.
What percentage of a football field does the hockey rink represent?
About half. It's a 50-yard field for us. I didn't go into too much about how the game was different. It is a 50-yard field, and it's 85 feet wide. So it's the full length of the hockey rink, so the full 200 feet for it. But it's 50 yards and with end zones in there. It's still there's kickoffs, but there's no punting of the football. You either go for it on 4 downs, 10 yards for a first down. On that 4th down, you either kick a field goal or you go for the first down. But it's still played on a 50-yard field. It's 8 on 8, so it's 8 on offense and 8 on defense. 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 3 offensive linemen, and 3 wide receivers. And one of those wide receivers can be in motion before the snap of the football. And then same deal on the other side. It's built for an offensive football game, so the scores are typically 60s, 70s, 80s. It's a lot of action, and it's a lot of end-to-end action, which is great for it. But unfortunately, if you're playing us, we do have one of the top defensive coaches in the field, so there will be 20, 30. That is my help.
Peter, you had a question?
Yeah, so just following up on the graduation question.
Sure.
So you mentioned the team wouldn't be there, but if the turf is down, it may be challenging for us to put out, both the chairs on the turf and kind of other complications. Is there any way to pull up the turf? How long does that take? I know we talked about this earlier, but I don't remember.
Carnes, it was a 3 to 4 hour process.
2 years ago, yeah, it's about a 3 to 4 hour process to pull the turf up.
Okay.
Not something that I haven't seen in the past. When I worked with a team in 2017, we would put the turf down after the hockey at Gutterson. We'd have to wait for all the hockey to end on Friday night, which would be about 11 o'clock. Then there was a team that would go in from 11 till probably 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to set up the field, the entirety of the field, including the turf and the pads. And then the game would be played on Saturday night, and as soon as our game ended, the turf would come back up. And that happened for approximately five home games.
Okay.
The biggest challenge if we needed to do something like that at Memorial would be storage for the turf while it was up. What I would suggest is if this does come to pass, we do a viability study relatively early in the season, have you guys come in, look at what the setup looks like with some of the chairs, talk about what you need, and determine whether or not it could be done on the turf, or if we need to look at covering the turf, or if we would need to take it out. So that we
I'm just
have a
thinking
plan
of
in
like,
place.
different kinds of different kinds of shoes that students wear, and
As far as I know,
I just
the turf
don't see
is-
turf. I don't see turf really work. Turf wouldn't work with the current setup that we have. So that's just something I'd want to be really clear about going forward.
Sure.
That we had a plan.
And as we said, your needs come first. You're a longstanding partner. The building sits on your property. So we'll make sure you're taken care of. So, and if that means we've got to pull the turf for a week, we'll work with Michael to find a way to do that. So.
It could be something as simple as a bye week in an away game so that we're not in the building physically as well. And if it's, graduation is in June, sorry, the first week in June, is it?
Usually the first
But there's also
Saturday.
the awards.
Yeah, it's a multi-day
Okay.
use of the facility.
Do we sign a contract with Friends of Hockey, or how does that work?
What do we have currently?
They're subletting from the town, and then we have a relationship with the town. The town has a lease from us. That's what I was saying. We're kind of.
No, I understand, I just didn't know, because obviously we're meeting our desires to have total access to the building in the way we want it at the important time, so
Yep.
I just want to make sure that that's secure. The alcohol doesn't bother me at all, but as long as it's done in a proper manner. But I don't want to be secretary to the football team even though it's a football town, okay, but still, I think it's really important that we aren't in a position that we're at the disadvantage.
Yes.
And we don't want that either. Again, we are the new
No,
people in
I
town.
understand, but I'm making a point, so.
Absolutely.
We are a valuable, long-standing client. We do pay for our use of that building, especially the hockey teams. So
I do also respect the fact that you gotta pay for it. And if it's not viable in a community way, either we can't afford it because it becomes more expensive to house the hockey team there, or the town can't afford it in different ways to maintain it. So maybe that's not right now, but it is an important part to have multi-use with multi-revenue streams.
And we've been clear with Michael from the first time we gave you a walk through the building, we talked about high school graduation. The very first, day one. And that we couldn't step on those toes, so.
And as far as I know, the turf is, it's not as squishy as it is outdoor turf. It's a harder, denser turf. Yeah, it's a little bit more like the old Astrodome turf. So, it's pretty much almost carpet strength. So, but we'll do whatever we can to make sure that that it is viable for all parties. Again, trying to be a part of the community, not overtake it.
Mary, yes.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Access for community people to participate in as either spectators. I know you mentioned that they could, try out, etc.
Absolutely.
But in terms of cost of tickets in this community,
we want to maintain a ticket level that is affordable to everyone. So we're looking at maybe a $10 to $15 ticket for it. No more than $20. My aim is to be affordable for families, so I don't want to go too high with it as well. We will I'm looking into and exploring options for families of 4 or more children as well, because it's harder for them to get in. Veterans, farmers, because of the population, and offering discounts as well for that. Again, trying to keep family friendly also means family affordable for it. So ideally, if I can keep it to about $50 per family, I will, and that makes sense all around, that's what I'm looking to do.
So Mary, I'm not hearing discounts for school board members, just so we're clear.
I just wanted to make sure, because it sounds like, I imagine a lot of kids would want to go. And with limited income for some of our families, I want to make sure it wasn't an exclusive event that only certain kids could go to.
Absolutely, and I'm open to all different models as well that we can do.
I know.
So we've offered a particular thing where a company could buy a select set of tickets at a discounted price and offer them to a group, like the Boys and Girls Club or the United Way, where they could then disseminate those tickets out as well. But offering discounts as well. The other piece is to make sure that our players come out after every home game and engage with the fans, sign autographs, take pictures after every home game. That's something that arena football really touts and holds its hat on, is to be interactive with the community as well. So after every home game, you'll see our players come back out and shake hands, sign autographs. They love it. They love interacting with the player, with the fans, and that's the type of caliber of player that we want to bring in.
Betty has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Betty.
I have a kind of safety concern, but
Sure.
also a suggestion.
Sure, love to hear it. Thank you.
Well, safety concern, meaning I'm assuming there'll be a lot of students or children attending who want to attend the games.
Sure.
And seeing that you want to make this as family friendly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned about the alcohol being sold in the space.
Okay.
But as a way to bring in revenue and support local businesses, because we're in a town where the local businesses are really suffering, is there a way that you could still bring in revenue but work with the local businesses that we have?
Sure. The alcohol piece.
How would that affect, how would the alcohol not being there affect
us?
affect
Well,
you?
the alcohol piece, I'm looking, everything I can do, again, locally is what I'm trying to do. That includes the alcohol as well, so it wouldn't be a third party. I would be talking to, say, Otter Creek or Woodchuck. Those are the first people I would go for and ask if they want to partake in this. The other thing is keeping the alcohol in designated areas as well, to keep it away from kids. There's a section, if you've ever been in the Memorial Sports Center, over in the back there, that's where I would house one particular part, and then up in the second floor as well in that area. I would prefer it to be there. In the models that I've seen, it's been a part of the fan experience that we've seen as a professional environment as well, and we'll do everything we can to make sure that it is not outside of things. My preference would be in there, but if the overall board does not agree to have it through, then we will look at other options to be able to make sure that it's still housed here at the Memorial Sports Center, but without the alcohol piece. I'm all ears, and you know, if there are other ways that I can go about it to make other people feel comfortable with it, I'm happy to do so with it in talking.
It's hard to visualize without a floor plan on here. But when you're in Memorial Sports Center, you have the main entrance, and then you have the run of the stands that run the length of the building. And then there's a large storage room. And then on the other side of that storage room, there's some open floor space down at the very corner of the rink. And that's where Michael and I have been talking about they're placing that vendor. So it's at the furthest point in the building from where folks will enter and leave the building. And there's the physical separation of that storage room between the sales area and where the stands begin. So in terms of visibility, if you're sitting in the stands, you can't see where the beer sales will be, or where the alcohol sales will be, because there's great big concrete room in between you and there. You'd actually have to go seek it out to find it. So I don't know if that helps address that concern.
Oh, yeah, but I'm also thinking of a scenario where someone takes too many drinks and we have children. You know, it's during the time when we have school in session and, you know, like.
No, it's Saturday night. School's not in session.
But during
And you can go to the
school year
movie
for
theater and have a drink
The
too.
must, well, I guess, well.
So,
I think one scenario you and I discussed was limiting number of drinks per person.
Per person, we can do that too.
And then also cutting off sales at a certain time of the night.
So in the proposal tonight, I've laid out just the cutting off of all sales, all alcohol sales, after the third quarter. So there's a whole quarter of no alcohol on top of the section as well. The other thing I've talked about with people is having kind of like at some festivals, they give you a certain number of tickets, and those tickets would be a drink. So we could do 5 tickets, we could do 3 tickets of one or something to that effect. So you really limit the number that somebody can have and never reach that point, at least inside of the sports center. What happens outside the arena, we can't necessarily control, but we can control what's inside. And the sales.
Just want to be a little cognizant of our time for one thing, but also just a reminder of sort of where we are in the kind of chain of command here. We own, not all, but some of the land the building sits on. The town owns the building. The Friends of Middlebury Hockey runs what goes on inside. So we're sort of 2 layers removed from sort of control and, I would say, liability at the same time. We don't have this on the agenda as an action item, but I think our presenters tonight, since their next step is to go to the select board and they want to sort of check this box off before they moved ahead, I think it would be good, probably move ahead with a motion. So I'd welcome suggestions of language for a motion so then we can discuss further.
We can't make a motion if it's not an action item. It's got to be on the agenda as an action item.
So we should
We can't.
chew on it then.
Or we could give them a straw vote.
You can give them a straw, I can give them a straw vote.
We can give them
I guess we could do
They've
that.
already been
we just
delayed
can't.
2 weeks.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we can't control the weather. We can't, so just to be clear, so I guess, is there anybody here, or how many of us are strongly, or are feeling like we need to oppose this? I think that you can consider that the endorsement that you need. And, I think for me, what was important is just sort of have on the video record and the sort of minutes record that it won't interfere with the current school functions that go on in the Memorial Sports Center. Saturday nights are Saturday nights in a building that we don't own nor control. So, I know you have many other hurdles to leap over in this process, so good luck and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody here for listening. I know you have some very important things to do than to listen to some guy talking about football. But I appreciate your time and a little bit of it, and I'll be hanging around a little bit more. I'd love to hear feedback, suggestions on this piece that would make you feel comfortable and hopefully get you excited to see us in March, this March 2020. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
So, sort of in the same arena, in the more broad sense, not in the building sense, we are also welcoming tonight Karen, is it Duguay?
It is Duguay.
Karen Duguay, who, for those of you who don't know, is our appointed member of the public to the Middlebury Recreation Committee.
That's right.
And she has said, could I come and give you all an update as to what's going on? And I'm really glad you did, because I probably wouldn't have thought to reach out to you and ask for it. And so welcome, and tell us a little bit about your role and how long you've been in it.
Yes, and my apologies, because when I was first appointed, I remember asking when I should come back, and we had said maybe quarterly, and that was a year ago, so a bit behind. We have actually only had, I think, 2 rec committee meetings since then, so there really wasn't a lot to report. But at our last meeting, we had a really good chance to sit down and kind of talk about our committee and what it is that we're really supposed to be doing. Are we an advisory committee? Is it an oversight committee? What are we really doing here, and how often should we be meeting? And so it was a really good chance to sort of regroup as a committee, and then also that gave me the opportunity to say, okay, I really should come back to the school board and give you guys a little bit of an update. So, the committee is made up of several members of the community. I think we have 6 or 7. And then, of course, we have Dustin Hunt as the superintendent, and then we have Scott Warren, who is the program coordinator, and they are overseen by Bill Kernan in the Department of Public Works for the town. And so we have a few things to report in on, not many, and I'll be very brief. I know you guys are well over your time for this evening, but and I have 2 questions that I wanted to kind of bring to you to get some clarification on that I can then bring back to the committee. So, and again, I'm happy to come as often as you want me to come, and Peter and I can chat about that, but you know, once a year does seem to be appropriate, unless there's something that needs to be said sooner than that. So one of the questions that we have is concerning the 6th grade move to MUMS and how that could potentially impact the Parks and Rec department, because currently those 6th graders are playing on 5-6 Parks and Rec teams like soccer, basketball, those kinds of things. So the committee has really kind of tossed around some ideas about what is that going to look like. Does that then become a MUMS program the way 7th and 8th grade sports are, or does it stay with 5-6 and a rec department program? And really at this juncture, we wanted some clarification from the board as to what we should be doing right now. So it's not that we're necessarily looking to you for a decision about that, but we kind of wanted some direction from you to say, you know, should we take on this this project maybe to research what other communities are doing, to see how other communities have dealt with this, and with their 6th grades, and you know, the communities that specifically have a rec department, are they still housed within a rec, or did they move to the middle school if this happened? So, you know, that's something that the committee would be willing to do, but we really wanted to look to you guys for that direction before we just kind of went off and did it.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent.
Said one member of the board. Yes, Peter wanted to do it.
So, I mean, it gets a bit complicated because there's, you know, looking at what other teams there are locally. So if we create 6th grade teams, how many teams can they play?
Right.
What will that look like?
Right. Does it become 6-7?
Yeah.
8? Right, exactly.
Right.
There's a lot of possibilities.
So I think the next step would be for, you know, a meeting between probably looping Sean in, Chris and Amy in as well at the middle school to start talking about what that might look like.
Okay.
And they're right now working within the school. They're beginning to think about what the model will look like. Mm-hmm. So there's a team that's working that is going to be bringing up an instructional model to the MUM staff and beyond in the coming months.
Yeah.
So this is something that's already been talked about, but hasn't really been kind of. I think people are seeing it as a secondary to, you know, let's get the academic model figured out, and then let's figure out also. I mean, obviously, along with that, what happens after school.
Right, and that's what we were well aware that this was on no one's priority list compared to everything else that needs to be decided. So that's what we just wanted the kind of okay to start researching it a little bit on our own, and then maybe bring back some suggestions. And
glad it was on your radar.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will definitely reach out to those folks, and we can kind of get the ball rolling there, and at least have something to bring forward to you guys. The next question has actually came up a lot during soccer season this year, and that was how the decision gets made about busing into the Middlebury Rec Park. So I believe Cornwall has a bus that brings students in to play soccer, but some of the other schools do not. And so I had parents asking me about that, and I had no idea. And so I was hoping for a little bit of clarification as to how that gets decided, and basically just an answer that I can provide to them.
So
go ahead.
I recall looking into this.
Yeah.
I can't recall the answer, but I can find it.
I'm going to guess the answer is along the lines of, I'm not sure every school has got different busing, but Cornwall does have a different, the elementary school gets out, at least it used to be, elementary school gets out earlier, then the bus goes into the middle school to start the pickup, and they happen to be driving by.
Yeah, sure. I do know that's what it is, on the regular route. So some, at every elementary school has a different schedule in the afternoon, and some buses come into middle area and some don't. So if they're already coming in, they swing by, but there's not a separate bus.
Okay, that's helpful. So now I have an answer that I can provide. Thank you. So the last two things are just some points of information for you guys. We did put up a pavilion in Middlebury Rec Park this fall, and that was through the Lions Club very generously. And I think that's going to be a really nice addition to that space. And it's already been used for team pizza parties and other kinds of gatherings. So that's great to have that. Definitely augments that space. And then lastly, I asked Scott to pull the number of participants, school-age participants, ACSD students, that participated in Parks and Rec programs in the last year. And that was 1,926. So lots and lots, of course, that represents, one kid maybe playing 5 different things in the year, but there's a lot of usage of our Parks and Rec department in a lot of different ways. So that's wonderful to see that kind of number and that level of engagement. Any questions for me to bring back to the committee?
It's sort of history now, but I was just curious about the impact of the movement of the rec center from where it was to where it is, and in terms of participation, both increase and decrease on sort of age level.
That's a great one. I'll find out.
And one thing I wonder about it is, are there pedestrian issues?
Yeah.
Parking. Better parking.
Yeah, but there's definitely, I think there are some, I could just speak anecdotally, my daughter played basketball last year, and that was a bit of a challenge getting the students from Mary Hogan to the gym. Several of them walked. There were issues with using the actor bus and getting a little rowdy for some of those students. But it is a challenge. If you don't have kids that parents feel comfortable with them making that walk on their own or with friends. And some days were really cold or icy or whatever. So there's definitely, I think, it's closer than it would have been in town maybe. Yeah. But we do. I think there is a little bit of a transportation issue. Yeah, well,
I worry just more about you got to cross Route 7, and are the crosswalks and signaling sufficient to get kids across the road safely?
Yeah.
Well, that's if you're going, for example, to basketball after school, there is a crossing guard at the intersection that you cross.
That's right.
And there's only one intersection you have to cross in order to get there.
Any other questions for Karen? All right, so it sounds like you and Peter will talk about furthering discussion about
definitely, and I'll bring back some suggestions there. Yeah. It will that visit will be less than a year from now.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Karen. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so we will return back to Part E of our agenda with the report of the superintendent, talking about our middle years program verification visit.
All right, and the board report for our snowed out meeting is still in that snowed out meetings agenda packet, so don't forget to review that. That has a lot of information about what's happening both district-wide and at every one of our schools. So in that report it said the verification visit was going to be happening. It's now happened, and just wanted to share a little bit about that. So last week we had 3 consultants come from International Baccalaureate. They came from different school systems throughout the country. What happens generally is IB schools work with consultants who maybe are a coordinator in a school outside of DC or are in Seattle or all over the place. And it's really edifying to have people come to our district from other places and have them be kind of a reflective mirror. When we're in it and when we're here, we, I think, take a lot for granted. And it was just awesome to talk with the 3 consultants who came, they spent 3 days here. One of them was our snow day. And so they had to change their schedule around and kind of try to figure out how to make things work. But they, their main goal in this visit is this is the kind of like the final part of our 4-year journey with the middle years program. And they can't tell you at the end of this visit whether you're authorized or not, but they give you kind of a summative evaluation of this is what we saw while we were here, and then they send you a report about a month later saying you're authorized, or these are some things that you need to work on before you're authorized. In the final meeting, in what they shared with us, they said some things that I've heard from other visiting teams as well. We had our diploma program verification visit last year, which was your staff really have an incredible commitment to students and are unlike other faculty that we've talked to in their level of professionalism and their perfectionism. And I think as we hear this from, and these are not from one school coming to another school, these are people from all over the country. I think it speaks a lot to who we are as a community and to specifically to our educators who really are what make us who we are. I think it's why we care so much about our schools. I think it's how we're able and have been able to do what we've done over the last 5 years in both deciding to move towards international baccalaureate and doing all of this intensive work to be positioned to where we are right now. They shared a few things that we're looking at as in terms of the middle years program, like adding a couple courses at the middle school for language acquisition and a few other smaller things that we're already in the process of working on. But overall, they had glowing remarks for the work that we're doing, and and they stress that this is not 3 years, 4 years, and you're done. This is a very long process, and it's the message I've been trying to share with staff really kind of all the time is this is the ongoing work we do as educators. We've shifted our systems pretty dramatically, and that's a heavy lift because we're not just shifting towards the International Baccalaureate framework, but we're also looking at our systems of services, which is a huge undertaking that brings together other systems that we were kind of fine with as they were before, but they were also very siloed. So this is we're not just doing one thing. We're not just bringing in some program that runs itself. We're really having to be inquisitive and inquirers ourselves to look at all of our systems, to ask hard questions, to shift and change and hold on to what's important and move forward. And it's taken a lot of energy on the part of educators and everyone to get to where we are. And we're not there because we're never there. We're constantly improving and moving. But I'm just very grateful.
Suzanne and Lorraine and I will verify that what Peter said the consultant said was actually what they told us as well. We got a chance to meet with them at the end of the day, and they said, usually at this point in the day, we're just dead. We've been listening to people complain and talk about how hard it is and change and all that, and they said, your staff is nothing like that. We're end of the day, we're energized. Everybody was really, as he said, committed and thoughtful and excited educators.
Peter, can you just give an example of, you used the word siloed and services, can you just give an example on that?
Sure.
I don't have a concept of that.
So I guess one example, last year we overhauled our EST process, which is a process to provide additional support to students. These are not students that are identified for special education. It's a process that is used to bring educators together to provide additional resources to students to help them in a variety of different ways. As we went through that process, it was pretty easy for us as a team, administrative team, to say, yes, this is a process we want to use in all of our schools. We want our EST to look like this. However, agreeing to something on paper and then having it be very similar in every school is a different thing, because every school has experience in working with a specific leader, with specific resources, with inclinations to do it this way or that way, and I think we've found that not just with the EST, but with many other systems that we have in place, that we have a general understanding of where we want to go to, but how we get there can be quite different. And sometimes that difference is okay and should be celebrated, but there are other times when, especially when we're trying to provide resources across all of our schools and following best practice and being sure that when there is significant need, a service that we've designed fits perfectly in to the need in the school so that it has an impact. If you're trying to support 9 different systems, we have 9 schools, 9 different systems that approach like a support system in different ways, it's really hard to sustain that from the district level and to really move forward to collaborate together to make it both cohesive and meet the needs of all students. Systems exist both organically on a human level, and they exist kind of operationally, and when you look at protocols and practices. It's really easy to change a system on paper. It's really hard to change belief and the relational aspects of systems, which tend to be a lot stronger than the kind of operational managerial side of it. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next step in the process?
So we'll be hearing back. Caitlin, do you know what's the date that we're going to get that report?
It typically takes a few months to get the report back from IB. That may come back with what are called matters to be addressed. We've been through that process with the diploma program. There were a couple of things, getting the right location for test storage was one of the matters to be addressed at the diploma program level. So we anticipate a few things that we need to adjust and adapt. We're hoping that we're on target to be authorized for MYP this spring. We're also in the process of scheduling our verification visits for the primary years program across all 7 schools, hoping to set those up in April, before April break, and then get our matters to be addressed over the summer ideally for authorization across all of the schools by the fall of 2020.
I thought that the PYP, the matters to be addressed, had already come and gone.
That was the application for authorization, and
Okay.
so those came back with perfect scores,
Yep.
which was really exciting. So the next round is the verification visits. Each of our programs is 1 semester off, so we did the DP,
Yeah.
then the MYP, and then the PYP.
Okay.
You thought you were done with that photo?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's a great photo.
I thought so too. Peter was highlighted in our staff communique with the 2 PYP coordinators.
It was a very celebratory event.
It was very cool.
It was great. And they did a great job. Having the report come back with no matters to be addressed is actually quite a feather in their cap.
Yeah.
All right, well, while you have the floor.
Yes.
FY21 budget development.
So we want to just continue sharing information as we receive it. Brittany's prepared a 1-page.
I do, I'm sorry.
Document.
I apologize that you didn't have this in advance. But as Peter said, the information is coming. Can you take one and pass?
We just need to start getting used to this, right? That it
Yeah, the
arrives at
information
5
is kind
o'clock.
of coming. Can you take one and pass them?
This is hot off the press.
I do. I only have 20 copies, but it will be online. But I'll give a few out. To take one. Sure. So really, at this point in budget development, we know almost nothing from the state. But there are some things that we have gotten information about. I have a few more. Does everyone on the board have one? So what we're really looking at right now is the excess spending threshold. Can I have one, Brittany? And if you remember, the excess spending threshold is sort of the number that we really eyeball, because once we exceed that number, we start to get double taxed on the amount that we exceed that number. So that's kind of every district's bar that they don't want to reach. And this number in, I think, fiscal year 16, the statute was changed about how this number was calculated. And it's partially based on what we call the NEEP CPI, which is the New England Economic Projects Cumulative Price Index, which is a mouthful. It's basically going up about 2.5% each year. So I prepared a chart kind of showing you where it's gone. It only goes back to 2018 because in 2017 there was a different number that was put forth. It was not the same as the excess spending threshold, so the history doesn't go back much further than that. Our current ed spending per equalized pupil without exemptions, because remember there are some exemptions. We have about $160 in exemptions. It's not a lot, but we can use that to get below the threshold if we need to. Is almost 17,500. So that means we can go up about 7.2% in our ed spending per equalized pupil before we start to bump up on that number. So we know education spending, part of the formula, generally increases 3 to 4% a year if you just do a roll-up, and that's in the absence of any major changes in health or health insurance benefits or wages. That's just sort of your standard increases. And our equalized pupils are declining. So given those two factors, we'll be bumping up on this, probably as soon as a year or two. But we won't know for sure until we get our equalized pupil number in mid-December. So just wanted to update you on that. And then, as we've said before, based on the upcoming changes for the 6th grade move, we still feel like it's important to try to build a budget that doesn't have a lot of these structural changes if we can. And when we get our equalized pupil number, we'll know, if we have to make more adjustments in the current year. I don't know if you want to say anything else, Peter.
No, I think you kind of summed it up well. I mean, as always, it's really easy at this point in the year to overreact, right, or try to predict and look in your crystal ball and say this is what's going to happen. And every time that I've seen people do that or we've done it, we tend to miss the mark. So we've grown to be a little bit more wary of reaction right now. So we're, as we get information, we'll be sharing it. I don't know if all of you remember back in the day when in October, we started putting our budget together and predicting what it would be. Now we've pushed that to December, which is, I think, working a lot better. So, the next really big number for us is December 15th or 16th. The 15th is a Sunday. We are hoping that the AOE comes through with that equalized pupil number. They have come through historically on December 15th for many, many years. Last year, due to complications with the longitudinal data system and a bunch of other factors, it came months and months later. So we built our budget blind pretty much last year, not knowing how many students we have, didn't know what our equalized pupil number was, didn't know what our cost per pupil was. We estimated it, and we were well enough below the threshold that we were okay. There's a potential this year, just given how things are going in the state and in the agency, that we might not get it on the 16th. It's supposed to be here by law on the 16th or 15th. So we're still hoping for that, but there are enough indicators where I think if we don't have that number by the 16th, we'll have to have a conversation around an approach to the budget that I think in some ways would estimate the number of equalized pupils we'll have, and we'll kind of build from that. And obviously every district in the state would be in the same situation if that happened.
Brittany, can you just remind us of the memo from 2 meetings ago that spoke of the increase with the health benefit, and because wasn't that a 7%?
So health insurance is going up 12%. It's pretty painful.
Is that a significant change in wages and benefits?
It's not as significant as if wages were going up 12%, but I can't remember the number that I said, but I think I said it was around 300, 400.
I remember 300.
Yeah, it was
It's
Okay,
significant.
that's money.
Yeah. We also have a little bit of uncertainty surrounding the statewide bargaining. They have it's in binding arbitration. We'll have an answer by December 15th. That's like a magic number, December 15th. We do have both plans proposals, although for me, some things are still unclear. That could also be, another, $300,000 for a full year. It'll just be a half year, so that could be another $150,000 to $200,000 hit, depending on which way it goes. Some of the concerns that we had regarding special education funding we seem to be working through those. So that's not quite as on the radar as it was before, but there are some, what I would quantify as substantial, uncontrollable changes. And we just have to see how those work in when all the other, when the dust settles from all the other changes that happen in a normal year.
Any other questions?
I have
Yes.
a comment. Many people in the conversation in the public talked about our being honed in on the dollar amounts of the people costs and whatever. You can't not be honed in on that. We'd love to be able to have the status quo stay the same, however things change. But it's these kinds of numbers that we have to be diligent in looking at. Because if budgets get voted down because we are double taxed, because we've gone over it, everybody suffers. And I think that it is absolutely true that the dollars do push us in certain directions. And maybe there aren't the directions that all of us would want to go. And I'm not saying which directions we're going to go, but the dollars do make a difference. And when we make these decisions, and however we make them, it's because we have to stay under it. Chittenden County doesn't have this because they're not going down in numbers, so their per pupil costs have stayed lower. Doesn't mean the education's better or worse. It means they have a different mix of students per whatever. Their equalized student numbers end up being lower than ours are, so.
Right, I think a good reminder as well is how much of our budget we don't have control over, that we.
Like 80%.
Yeah.
Right, so it seems like where we present a budget to the public and the public's voting on it, and it makes it feel like that's all of we're spending all our own money, but in fact, 80% of our budget is out of our control, so when it comes to cutting things and bringing the budget down, there's only very narrow way in which we can do that. Most of it's in personnel.
So our next budget update, December 15th, or will there be more to report at our next December meeting?
I'm not sure if we'll have.
I don't think we'll have.
We might have the December 1st, we should have the December 1st tax letter from the tax commissioner, which is the property yield.
Yeah.
Which is more a factor in the, it is a factor in the property tax, but not in net spending for equalized people. So we'll share that. I'm not sure if we'll have anything else at that point, but you'll see a draft at the second December meeting.
Okay.
We did give the administration a guideline. The board did.
Yeah.
Right.
To avoid double taxation.
Well, yeah, but I meant as far as what the numbers we wanted you to work within. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
While you still have the floor, would you
Yes.
like to talk about, under action items for report of the board, the dual client representation agreement?
That's a weird one.
I know.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
It came from LA Unified, our close neighbor.
Yeah, really similar size.
Yeah, so this class action lawsuit, I believe, started with LA Unified, against Jewel, and then I think it's spread. I don't know what states it's in right now, but we were contacted by an attorney that we work with who reached out to a number of larger districts. It sounds to me, based on what I learned, that there was a certain number of students, a certain size of a district that needed to sign on to this, and so I think smaller districts weren't able to take part, and larger ones were not large, but were on the larger side of small. So we were contacted. From what I understand, many districts have signed on. Many of the larger districts in Vermont have signed on. I asked a number of questions to the attorney, and one doesn't sound like it's a lot of. I think I would have a little bit of time taken to meet with this group. I don't think it would be very much time. I thought it was a good idea, just kind of given the impact of this and kind of the insidious nature of it, and kind of making a statement too. So I was supportive of it.
So other than your time, there's really no financial risk for the district? No.
Any benefit?
If there's a major settlement.
Fee structure was, they get 30%, so we get the rest.
No, among all the districts.
30% of
Any questions? So how about a motion to participate in the class action lawsuit against Jewel? And is everybody clear what Jewel is and all that? Amy, your question?
Yeah, no, I was going to make the motion.
Oh, okay, please.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? All right, great. Thank you for the research on that. Just let us know when the ship comes in. 8 years from now.
We're not on the board then, it won't be affecting us.
I'll be speaking to a room of strangers.
We have on the last item on our agenda is committee reports. 2 committees meet before the meeting. Mary, do you have any status report for us?
This is the Policy and Governance Committee. We talked about the work that we'll do during the year, and one of the main things we'd like to do is structure how we monitor the current policies, and when we need to update them, where the procedures are, and just sort of monitoring how the policy is going, and then updating as we need to. So we're in the process of just doing an inventory right now.
That's great. We often just create policy and then forget the monitoring part. Thank you. Betty or Amy, do you want to give us an update on the engagement?
Planning engagement. Yep. 2 things in particular. One is there's still the Google Sheet with the sign up for the school visits. I know that a few have happened, and I just want to say on the record, since we do have so many public folks here, that this is something we've been trying to do for some time. We want to build a culture of the board members being familiar with all of our schools in our district and not just where we live. They're not evaluative in any stretch of the imagination, and in fact, if anything, it's out of wanting to learn and grow and just be more and build relationship, if anything. At any rate, I know a few have happened already, and we can do another round, but there is the Google Sheet, so it's just a reminder to sign up and go. I know Betty's gone. Mary's gone on a few, Victoria, so a few have already happened, but and Peter's going to make sure that the principals know that they're coming. But the more important thing is we've got parent group meetings. We had our one with Ripton a few weeks ago, but we've got a few coming up. So I'm actually going to send around a sign up because several are for next week. Our goal is to have at least 3 board members for each meeting, ideally at least 1 Middlebury and 1 small school town resident, and then as many as Peter can go to as possible. And this could make sure that this gets back to me before the end of the evening, and then we're going to do a doodle poll from here. But and I'll just quickly read them out. So we've got Cornwall next Tuesday at 7:50 a.m. We've got Weybridge. Your parent group meets next Tuesday at 5:30. Is that right? That's what we were given the range of next week, and we understand that that's when you might be. Okay.
The next fall meeting was December 11th. I got mixed up on that.
Okay. All right. So then there might be, as long as we're here.
People will come.
Okay. Because we were told for next week to pick a day, so I guess we'll work that out before the end of the meeting. Shoreham, December 17th at 6 p.m. Mary Hogan, January 16th at 6:30, so there's time to schedule that. Bridport we're going to follow up with again, and Salisbury because Jen, our chair, is part of that, so they've had more of an opportunity to engage. And the purpose of these is to answer questions and engage in a way that we can't in this format. We had a very successful meeting in Ripton, and I think we're looking forward to engaging with the rest of our towns. So I'm passing it around. Please try to find at least one that you can join us for.
This Weybridge meeting seems to be in doubt.
It is. I'm texting Kirsten right now. Okay, great. So put that one on hold.
And it'd be fair to say that this is just one area of engagement that we're up to. We're going to have a rather large forum in January, and that'll probably be followed up by further community engagement to be determined.
Right. It's not settled, but we talked about a potential date of
January 27th.
27th. The other thing we talked about, just so people know, is the reinvigoration of the steering committee, so that there's more than board engagement around the process. Yeah.
The Weybridge date is perfect.
I'm sorry?
The Weybridge date is perfect.
The Weybridge date is perfect? Great.
Which one? The December 11th?
No, the
Third.
What's on there?
December 3rd.
The 3rd.
Weybridge is the 3rd.
At 6.
Third at 6:30?
6:30.
Is it 5:30 or
5:30.
5:30.
5:30, right. Yeah. Great, thank you. Thank you for solving that one. Great.
Thank you. Any other committees to report? What's the next date of yours?
December 17th is the next facilities meeting. We've pretty much been meeting with Amy and Jen and their committee to align communication and make sure we're all on the same page as to what we want the forum to look like in January. And
Which again, we might as well say for the record, the forum in January is a point in time to do a check around information. So it's a very different purpose than the school visits and then the parent group meetings, and it's all ongoing iterations, different processes. We're trying to hit all levels. So.
Well put.
Yep.
All right. Well, that covers the. Yep.
She was just wondering about the time. I don't think,
we don't
my
have-
understanding is there's no time yet for that,
evening. Right.
Yeah, I think it was,
Oh, wait, the 17th or the public forum?
That's
17th,
6 o'clock.
It's gonna.
Right, is the Shore money, she said that her meeting was
Right,
December 17th.
facilities is at 4 and Shoreham is at 6.
So it has the
So,
I thought you were talking about this
I
January 27th.
thought you were January.
No, facilities meeting.
Sign-up's coming around.
I have a question about the parent meetings. Will there be childcare?
we are guests at these, so it's up to the hosting organization.
We have been organizing here, so that's just Baybridge, so I don't know about the other schools.
All right, well, while the sign-up continues to go around, we can do that outside of the meeting, so we can adjourn. If anybody would like to make the motion to adjourn? So moved. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye. As long as people sign the thing.
All right, anybody opposed? Hearing none, we do officially stand adjourned. Thank you.
Great.